Hello everyone! How's everyone doing? Welcome to our meeting. I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm sure you've all had time to introduce yourselves, but please let me go over it again. Mr. Parent, we're so glad you could be here today. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Teacher. We know this is your prep time, but we really appreciate you coming to join us today. Glad I could be here. Our new behavior analyst at the school board, Mr. Pereira. It's really great that you could be here today for us too. Thank you so much for coming. Hey, thank you. And of course myself, Mr. Principal, and I'll be helping conduct this meeting today. So let's not waste any more of your time. Since I've already done so much of that, let's get started. Our first month of school has absolutely flown by. It's amazing we could get together so soon. Let's just touch base about child's progress and so far this year. Now, parent, you mentioned to us briefly over email about concerns over the use of the token board. From my understanding, Mr. Teacher, you share that sentiment as well. And you've already expressed your concerns to Mr. Jared as well. So, Mr. Parent, did you want to begin with that? Yes, thank you, Mr. Principal. I really do appreciate that. I would love to elaborate on that. So, as you do know, child just had their 5th birthday, and they're very excited, but we had them reassessed at our local clinic, and the professionals there are super happy with child's progress, socially and academically, of course. And as you may know, last year we had the BA suggest a token board at school, and it worked amazing, so we started using it at home, and everything's been going great. But since the beginning of this school year, anytime that I find child makes a mistake or I'm upset with child, they tend to beg me and say things like, don't take away the stars from my token board. And we've never taken away stars from the token board. So do you have any explanation of what's happening here? Now, if I may, Mr. Principal, I would like to openly admit that with my experience and discretion, I've advised anyone working with child, including EA, ECE, lunchtime supervisors, and anybody else that's in my classroom, that is indeed okay that if a child is misbehaving, to take away a token. Now, I really want child to understand how important these tokens are. So that's why when I see misbehavior, I take one away. It is in their best interests. Nobody wants to see child succeeding using the token board more than I do. I have my reasons for punishment. A study done by Fair and Gatcher looked at how cooperation increased when so-called free riders had punishers available. Take a look at the data from the article. The authors also suggested that the apparent willingness to punish just constitutes a credible threat for potential free riders, and that increases cooperation levels. Now, I live by my philosophy of no free riders in the classroom, and we all must cooperate as a team. And if punishment means more cooperation, then I'm all for it. You're taking away tokens from my child's token board? The behavioral analyst last year said that was a big no-no. Mr. Pereira, can you explain if this is okay? I do understand your concern, Mr. Parent. Most of the time when an individual earns a token, it should not be later revoked due to an undesirable instance of behavior. Think of tokens like a paycheck. Your employer wouldn't dock pay from a previous paycheck that you've already earned. The token board and token economy follow a very similar principle. And although this is a very interesting article, Mr. Teacher, I do have a few articles that I've dug out to challenge your points. So in one article I'm about to show you by Sigler, they explain the theory of positive reinforcement, and that theory is that any behavior followed by a pleasant stimulus will be likely repeated. And with that in mind, Sigler also mentions that a pleasant stimulus can be anything that a child likes. And a child has expressed their likes for the token board and collecting tokens. And from last year's data that we have collected, the child has achieved better social and academic achievements while using the token board with reinforcing procedures. With that in mind, it would be wise to continue to use the token board without involving punishment, and we could later on reassess. Another great example can be found in a study done by Durdich in 2010, and they used behavioral interventions in the classroom that required positive reinforcement, and researchers were better able to deal with problematic behaviors, or they outright reduced them. So the study's pretty consistent with your classroom goals, Mr. Teacher, and how you're really reaching for that cooperation aspect. The study also suggested that a focused, organized, and detailed behavior management plan that utilizes positive reinforcement can influence students' behavior in the desired manner. And that's consistent with child's IEP and the functional use of the token board, as our behavior analysts collected with last year's data, you can see here. Alright, so you have to bear with me as I have one last article just to show you guys, and it is completed by Mag, and it's just talking about punishment at school and the type of punishment that we usually see at school, which is sending students out in the hallways, suspensions, etc. And that results in the removal of an aversion. And teachers are negatively reinforced for punishing students, which in turn increases the use of punishment and which reinforces them to continue to reuse punishment. So the removal of that token is punishment, and although it may avert the continuation of that undesirable behavior in the moment, the use of punishment in this instance doesn't translate to our long-term goal, which is to have child use the token board and be successful with using it at school. We can all really tell, Mr. Teacher, that you're putting your passion into using the token board, and we all want the same thing for child, which is to be successful at school and successful in using the token board. And a big part of last year's school success for child can be attributed to the functional use of the token board. So to begin again, child might feel a diminished sense of motivation due to having tokens taken away previously, but we can rectify that, and we will, and we're going to let child know that this no longer going to be the case. So together, as a team, we're going to continue to reward child for the desired behaviors they display in class via the token board, and ignore the undesirable ones. But we should avoid punishing child by taking away tokens in the future. Well, I guess you do have some credible information, Mr. Behavior Analyst. I suppose we do want the same thing for child. We want them to be successful using the token board. You're absolutely right. You know, I can give this positive reinforcement thing a harder try, especially if it means increasing cooperation in my classroom. And Mr. Parent, my utmost apologies, my sincerest apologies. I didn't realize that new behaviors could occur in the home and at school if I did that. I'll be taking in some of these things into consideration. I appreciate this meeting today. I know I can say I am super glad that we all got together. This was very constructive. Mr. Parent, thank you so much for the continued support here. And Mr. Teacher, we really do appreciate you continuing on the use of the token board. And Mr. Jared, thanks so much for offering us some of your perspective as well. Guys, moving forward, we have our plan. We're going to stick to it. Thank you everyone for coming by. This has been great. Talk soon. Great. So nice to see you guys. Talk to you later.